Hello and welcome to another episode of I Didn't Play It, the informational video game series showcasing plot threads and storylines of games you may or may not have played before. Today's episode is a fun one as we'll be venturing our first stab at the land of Nintendo regarding I Didn't Play It. Hashtag, please don't come after us Mr. Nintendo, CEO of Nintendo. Now, with that said, it's uncommon to find someone who doesn't know the likes of The Legend of Zelda, as today, we'll be looking at one of the spin-off entries that certainly took some liberties regarding its own source material, which is, as I'm sure you can surmise having already clicked on this video, is none other than Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, the prequel to the events of Breath of the Wild that, for quick spoilers here, are also non-canon to the very game it's geared towards. As far as this show's housekeeping is concerned, we'll be tackling all story content from the base game as well as its DLC content in one fell swoop, as opposed to doing multiple videos for things relating to expansions or side content. With that out of the way, it's time to awaken the Guardians, rally your armies, and brace yourself for the battles ahead, because this is I Didn't Play It, Age of Calamity. Our story begins in the Battle of the Great Calamity 100 years before the events of Breath of the Wild. Hyrule has fallen, and the Guardians have turned the land into a valley of fire and chaos. Not only this, the cast of Zelda's champions have been taken out of the picture. In a desperate plea, Zelda at last wakens to her powers as a light flashes inside her study as a small robot named Terrako springs to life. A portal to the past opens before him, and jumping through, a Guardian behind him opens fire before sending some of Ganon's malice after him into the past. Already, this is where our first additional bit of add-on story comes in as we see Terrako land safely and scurry off to find the princess, entirely unaware he didn't make it through time alone. The malice that followed Terrako into the past beelines it for Hyrule Castle and possesses the version of Terrako sleeping idly in Zelda's study. This event is of course the birth of Harbinger Ganon, adding itself to Ganon's arsenal of power as it then heads out to find someone else. We now skip ahead to an undisclosed amount of time later as Harbinger Ganon finds himself among a group of his own disciples, offering prayers to him as he shows them visions of the future. His malice begins to lash out and claim the disciples around him. The last one standing is a seer named Aster, who is more than willing to fulfill Ganon's wishes. We now cut back to before the Calamity strikes as King Rhoam addresses his soldiers ready to face an incoming threat of monsters. Ganon's return was prophesized, and that time draws ever near. In the background, the divine beasts have been discovered across the land of Hyrule, and scholars are filling book after book of knowledge gleaned from these artifacts. But, as impressive as they are, war is inevitable. Monsters march on Hyrule Field as he speaks. He rallies his troops as we see our hero Link among the army. During his mission, Link finds Terrako slumped against a rock inoperable. Before he can really investigate, he finds Impa trying to run off from various monsters. Springing into action, Link dives headfirst towards his enemies as Impa loses her grip on the Sheikah Slate, a device of unknown origin bearing the Sheikah insignia. As the slate soars through the air, Terrako begins to boot up and a tower forms in the middle of the town square. After the monsters are dealt with, Link and Impa turn their attention back to Terrako, who quickly runs off to find Zelda. Upon Link and Impa making it back to the princess, it's then Link spots Terrako getting close as he snags the little guy in the event he's a threat. Caught off guard, Zelda is shown the Sheikah Slate, as Impa explains the device brings with it the origin of their time-traveling interloper. They learn Terrako comes from the future, of which the heroes failed to stop Ganon from the outset. Terrako's primary objective is of course to save Princess Zelda. From there, she suggests it would be wise to let Hyrule's best researchers, Purah and Robbie, take a look into this phenomenon, both Terrako and the tower that sprung forth in the town square. After receiving the king's approval, Zelda joins Impa to visit Purah's research facility, assigning Link to be her own personal bodyguard. As the trio make their way there, they become aware of Terrako doing everything he can to stay close to Zelda. Despite Impa's confusion and Zelda's curiosity, Terrako begins to gesture dangers afoot as Link quickly springs into action and protects Zelda from a nearby Guardian coming to life. The Guardian pursues our heroes throughout the canyon as they have to fight their way through before finally striking the Guardian down. Having finally made their way safely to Purah's lab, Harbinger Ganon watches them ominously from afar as the heroes enter. Saying hello off screen and handing over Terrako, Purah and Robbie are able to see into Terrako's memories as they study him. And I say see quite literally here, as the next bit of DLC plot takes place. Terrako and Harbinger Ganon are facing one another off at some point before Link found him. The fight seems over as Harbinger Ganon slumps forward as he shuts down. That is of course until he suddenly reboots as he slams Terrako into a wall as rubble overtakes him. Assuming the fight is now won for real this time, Harbinger Ganon returns to its much smaller size and heads off, presumably later meeting Aster. Sometime after that, some bokoblins enter the ruins and find Terrako shut down amid the rubble. For some reason or another, the bokoblins take Terrako off into town like a treasure to be won, but just as quickly abandon him as off in the distance, we see Link making short work of a modest group of their own kin. Back in the present, Robbie is amazed by what the two of them had just witnessed, while Purah herself ponders how the technology within Terrako is able to make recordings on such a scale. After all, despite these recordings coming from Terrako's body himself, they're all filmed in a third-person perspective for them to see. She and Robbie continue digging deeper into Terrako's memories, but more on this later. Facing Zelda and her companions, Robbie is ecstatic at Terrako's presence, as presumably Robbie never got to see the other Terrako that was within Zelda's study that's now running around as a Harbinger. The heroes don't quite share his enthusiasm, though nevertheless, he gives him an explanation that devices like the Sheikah Slate are amplified by the presence of other like-minded technology, presumably like the Sheikah Towers and Guardians, hence why everyone can make use of the Slate, however foreign it may be to them, as he then fantasizes about all sorts of information he can pull from Terrako in time. Purah then joins in and shows the group what she and Robbie were already able to take from Terrako's memories that could be exported into video and images. Most importantly, they show Zelda imagery of Calamity Ganon being revived as Hyrule burns. Robbie tells them there's much more data within Terrako, however, finding this was clearly the footnote worth latching onto. Zelda, for her part, is horrified by what she's seeing as she then vows then and there to do everything she can to prevent this future from happening. We're then given a brief narration explaining Zelda learns she needs to find the Master Sword as well as suitable pilots for the Divine Beasts. However, the Korok Forest has been infested with monsters, and Zelda's powers have yet to awaken. King Rome then sends Zelda on a pilgrimage to find suitable pilots for the Divine Beasts, as now Link has earned himself a promotion and gets to be Zelda's personal knight. During this interaction, Zelda confirms to her father that Terrako is to join them on her travels after her consultation with Purah and Robbie. While His Highness ultimately accepts Zelda's proposal, he remains firm that Zelda is to focus on gaining her powers of awakening. As they leave, Zelda clutches a relic handed down to her by her mother. The group's first stop in their travels is Zora's domain, as they learn the Princess of the Zoras, Mipha, can heal wounds with her divine powers. From there, she's chosen to pilot Vah Ruta, the divine beast that resembles an elephant. Upon trying to recruit her, however, her father, King Dorphin, refuses to put his daughter in that sort of danger when the hero who seals the darkness has yet to present himself. Link, meanwhile, is elsewhere in Zora's domain with Mipha as she and him spend some time catching up, while also learning about Terrako being a guardian. Both conversations are interrupted, however, as monsters march their way onto the domain. King Dorphin leads his army onwards to intercept the beast as Mipha learns her little brother, Prince Sidon, is missing. Link and Terrako join Mipha in her search for her little brother. Among the chaos of the battle ahead, the group eventually finds Sidon by himself trying to 1v1 a Lionel. Noticing the party, the beast then faces them and rushes onwards. Chasing the monster away, Mipha runs to Sidon's side, scolding him for his antics. Nevertheless, she's relieved by the fact that he's safe, and she knows deep down how brave he really is. But before the group can settle down, Ganon's army marches onto the grounds of Zora's domain. While the team contemplates their options, the Sheikah Slate comes to life as Vah Ruta appears on its display. The heroes quickly make their way to the Divine Beast, with Mipha positioning herself in the pilot seat. Cutting back to King Dorphin, he finds himself backed into a corner by the overwhelming odds of Ganon's army. Realizing how greatly he misunderstood the severity of the situation, the king has a change of heart and allows Mipha to formally pilot Vah Ruta by herself, on the condition that she comes back safely. With one Divine Beast now champion, the group sets their sights on Death Mountain to find Daruk, the hero of the Gorons, to pilot Divine Beast Rudania, the one that vaguely resembles a salamander. Upon being introduced to Daruk, we clearly seem to have passed the phase of formal introductions, as Daruk himself already seems eager to do his part, but he does have one little bit of his own troubles, just one tiny piece that he let Zelda know Vah Rudania is in a difficult spot to reach. High on top Death Mountain, monsters have found themselves having a field day chasing away any who get too close. Fortunately for everyone, Daruk has enlisted all of their help on the spot. Reaching the mountain's peak, the heroes slap around the troublesome monsters and begin to approach the divine beasts as Daruk expresses his gratitude to Link. And now, with easy access to Vah Rudania, he declares his allegiance as he offers his favorite swordsman a delicacy among the Gorons. No stranger to trying new things, Link digs in as Daruk realizes he didn't bring any for the princess. 2 down, 2 to go. Zelda, Link, Impa, and Terrako make their way to the Tapantha frontier to address the Rito, on who shall pilot the divine beast, Vah Medoh. In particular, they hope to enlist the help of a warrior of the Rito named Revali. Unfortunately, things aren't so simple this time, as the group finds themselves caught in a blizzard. While Link and Terrako scout the area ahead, Rito scouts let Revali know that Hylians are approaching. However, he isn't in a very welcoming mood and sets out to chase them away. During the scuffle with Link, Revali tries catching him off guard, but much to his own amusement, Zelda intervenes and stops the fight before either of them end up hurting themselves. We then learn the Rito have been on edge lately as a mysterious figure has been leading monsters their way that look like Terrako. No doubt, this is Harbinger Ganon acting in the background. While Revali and his soldiers have been successful thus far keeping the threats at bay, they were beginning to become paranoid of anyone approaching. As Zelda learns of this, she expresses her heartfelt concern for the Rito's plight. Impa meanwhile points out that they'll need to figure out who the secondary smaller guardian is and what they're up to. While Zelda concurs, Revali steps up understanding he's to pilot Vah Medoh. But he makes it known he doesn't like Link very much. Before this conversation can go further south, however, Terrako butts in, putting a stop to everything. With that, 3 divine beasts have found their pilots. Setting out a 4th time, their travels take them to a settlement in the Gerudo Desert, where the Gerudo themselves live in content. The chief of the Gerudo, Urbosa, was Zelda's choice to take the last of the divine beast, Vah Nabros. Not only is Urbosa a powerful warrior, she's also an old friend of the Hyrulean royal family. Arriving, the heroes aren't given a warm welcome like they had hoped, as the Gerudo draw their blades in an attempt to strike them down. The heroes fight their way across the sands and arrive at Gerudo Town as they come face to face with Urbosa, declaring she's trying to alter fate itself. Before she can strike Zelda, however, she's then struck by lightning as the real Urbosa wanders in. Apparently, the real Urbosa had been out of town for a spell, but had caught wind of a doppelganger taking up residence in her place and making a mess of things. After catching wind of this news, she then hurried home. It's then the doppelganger on the floor reveals their true form as none other than the top banana of the Yiga clan, Master Koga. Summoning troops to his side, he then comically makes his exit, much to his soldiers' confusion, leaving them with all the work. Fighting off the Yiga clan and following him across the sands, Master Koga is bewildered by this turn of events, and before any harm can be done to him, it's then his best soldier, Suga, makes his appearance, as he gives both Link and Urbosa a run for their money. Managing to hold off his pursuers long enough, Suga then takes Master Koga and makes his retreat. When the chaos has finally subsided, Urbosa asks Zelda and her troops to meet her outside of their settlement near Vah Nabros. Having already understood the assignment, much like the other champions, Urbosa agrees to pilot the Divine Beast. With all 4 Divine Beasts now assigned their respective pilots, it seems all is well. However, unbeknownst to them, something sinister lurks beneath the surface as we then get taken back to the Yiga clan hideout. It's there we finally catch up with Master Koga and Suga talking to their new ally, Aster. He's more than disappointed with the day's events as he had hoped to stomp out the resistance to Ganon's return then and there, but with Koga botching the whole thing, he can't help but express his annoyance. He takes a relic to Harbinger Ganon, who sits on an altar elsewhere in the room, as they're then given a vision of the future. The future they're being shown, of course, are the canon events that lead into Breath of the Wild. Returning home and trying her best to make progress, Zelda's having a field day with her research of ancient tech and the like regarding the Divine Beasts. However, her power of sealing just isn't coming together quite yet. Despite the progress she has made lately with everything else, the king doesn't give her any encouragement, seemingly refraining from offering any praise for what she's been able to accomplish so far. While Impa has Zelda's back in the matter, Zelda keeps an open mind trying to see things from her father's perspective. She then sends Impa off to find Daruk and Mipha to let them know that she'll require their assistance soon. Once she leaves, Zelda turns her attention to Terrako and tells him the king blames her not trying hard enough or her powers not awakening yet. Having a moment of vulnerability, she then notices Link has been nearby the entire time overhearing this entire conversation. Later that day, Zelda and Link with a platoon of soldiers head out to do field tests with the divine beasts Ruta and Rudania. As Zelda iterates to Link the importance of her research, Mipha and Daruk use the time to discuss training together in hopes of better compatibility in combat. While Daruk accepts, he laments it is worrying to him that they haven't seemed to have found the hero of legend quite yet. As they keep talking, Daruk then sees Link in the distance and begins to have a thought that he doesn't get to share to the rest of the group, as the party is immediately then ambushed by the Yiga clan once again, as Suga leads the charge in hopes of executing Zelda. With everyone's help, they fight off the Yiga clan once again as Link hurries after Suga. While his attempt on Zelda's life is unsuccessful, he realizes he'll have to go through Terrako and Link in order to get to her. Though, understands that at present, Link will for sure be his biggest hurdle, as he then retreats with his members. The group then proceeds to share a tender moment of reprieve as Terrako acts jealous of Link ruining his little moment to play hero. The king then issues a decree for the pilots of the Divine Beast to seek out the hero of legend who can wield the Master Sword. While Revali boasts he and the other champions will do their part, he points out that Link just happens to be the odd one out. Daruk stands up for Link, claiming it doesn't matter who has what titles or roles to play, everyone in the coming battles is on the same team. But Revali isn't having it, before then claiming he himself will be the key in everything. Revali then turns his gaze to Link, telling him that at the very least, if Link fails, he'll look stupid when doing it. Urbosa then speaks up and tells Revali to get on with it. They didn't come to listen to him ramble. It's then told to us that the reason everyone got together was so Revali can use the time to get accustomed to piloting Ba-Mado, and use that, in turn, to wipe out all the monsters blocking the way to Kakari Forest without having to wear themselves down. As Revali finishes up, Zelda, Link, and the other champions head into the forest to find the Master Sword. We're then catching up with Aster, who's in the middle of giving orders to the Yiga members, letting them know Zelda's approaching and to take care of her. While the heroes wander through, they begin to realize the fog is so thick they may have just gotten lost in the woods. While bickering among themselves, Zelda finally notices Hetsu following them throughout the forest. Hetsu introduces himself as the one who brings song and dance to the Koroks. However, due to the onslaught of monsters lately, he can't seem to make his way through by himself. The heroes then speak up, claiming that they can take care of that for him. Hetsu is of course over the moon as he then leads the way. Making it to the sword, they find Aster lying in wait for them, who wastes no time at all summoning dark projections of Link and his allies. Link then throws himself headfirst into danger and proceeds to go toe-to-toe with all of them. While he initially manages to hold his ground, the enemies overcome his efforts. Being disarmed, Zelda then panics as Aster sends his projections into Slayer. But just before they can strike, Link awakens to the powers of his own as light from the Master Sword vanishes the darkness around them. Everyone turns their attention to the sword as Link releases it from its pedestal. Driving off faster as he runs away, Link and his friends turn their attention to a voice behind them. That voice belongs to none other than the Great Deku Tree. As he speaks, his Koroks appear around him as he explains the sword Link carries will be essential to defeating the Calamity, declaring Link had to be chosen to wield it, not just anyone. Zelda begins to have doubts, but the Great Deku Tree gently calms her down as he tells her powers will awaken on their own in time. While he could likely say more, he quickly drifts off to sleep for the time being. While the doubt in Zelda's heart remains, the people of the land at least have some hope in knowing that if the heroes finally emerge, it should be a sign for better things to come. After opting to join her companions on another expedition, nothing useful becomes of it. It's on their way home, however, from this escapade that Terrako attempts to calm Zelda down by playing her lullaby. She begins to have a flashback of Terrako always being there when she was a child, but isn't able to connect the dots on where he's been this whole time. She's unable to think for long, however, as the group is then ambushed by monsters. Overcoming the setback, Zelda looks on as Daruk and some of Hyrule's soldiers are alongside Link taking a breather. Envy of his progress, Urbosa interrupts her train of thought. She tells Zelda that comparing her progress to Link's isn't necessary. Even if Link didn't have the Master Sword, he'd still be the one on the front lines protecting the people he cares for. The fact he has the sword isn't what makes him a hero, it's just who he is. Just like Zelda. Even if she didn't have the Power Awakening, she's still a noble leader that's been able to accomplish so much in a short span of time. Researching the Guardians, utilizing diplomacy to find suitable pilots for the divine beasts across the land, and being instrumental in helping Link find the Master Sword in the first place. That kind of thing doesn't just happen, you have to try. She then reminds Zelda on what the Great Deku Tree said. Ultimately, Urbosa believes in her. Sometime later, the pilots are officially being celebrated as champions of Hyrule. They formally received the titles and have been given suitable sashes to boot. Impa then tells Zelda that now that they have all the pieces in play, she's certain they can overcome the troubles ahead. She's then interrupted by Teriko as the little robot begins to squabble with her as the group begins to share a laugh. As this is happening, Mipha quietly approaches Daruk about their earlier conversation, as the two then agree to head off to train as Mipha begins to imply her motivation to be stronger is so she can fight alongside Link. The champions later spend some time growing more accustomed to their divine beasts. As Purah's research on the Sheikah Towers progresses nicely, she then learns that connecting the Sheikah Slate with the towers can subsequently link them to a network of sorts. While the champions set out to link the towers, Zelda tries looking into the tower in town. It's as she gets ready to leave, however, that King Rome proceeds to chastise her for focusing on her relics rather than the power of awakening, completely undermining the pep talks that literally everyone, the Great Deku Tree included, gave her. Zelda tries to explain her reasons for looking into the relics, reminds her of her mother, and thinks something significant can come from them if she can be left to her own devices. King Rome puts his foot down to dissuade her, but Zelda manages to affirm she's committed to her training. Reluctantly, Rome accepts her proposal, but is firm about Zelda's training coming before all else. We then catch up with Aster, Master Koga, and Suga, who are in the midst of making a plan trying to sabotage the Sheikah Towers from activating. Suga begins to have doubts about Aster's grand ambitions, as despite all of them taking orders from Harbinger Ganon, Aster seems to think he'll be the one in control upon Ganon's resurrection. Back to Link, he and Teriko approach the terminal in the central Sheikah Tower and activating it with the Sheikah Slate. The towers across Hyrule in unison begin to spring forth across the land. Purah is ecstatic, as now, if they can use the Sheikah Slate on the other towers, they'll be able to learn far more about the respective regions from each tower in an instant. They just need to link them all first. While they make steady progress in time, unbeknownst to them, Aster and the Yiga clan are attempting to sabotage this endeavor. Heading northeast, to the Akala region, on the edge of Hyrule's borders, the Highland is home to the final Sheikah Tower, where the Yiga lay their plans. Having dealt with their interlopers, the heroes interact with the final tower as Zelda takes in the view. Purah meanwhile lets Zelda know the towers were designed to monitor the land for Calamity Ganon. Upon activation, the terminals give the Sheikah Slate regional information corresponding to each tower, and it even lets them know the locations of where monsters are at that exact moment. Just try not to think about how this technology could be used in the wrong hands. Purah then uses this technology to pinpoint, the Yiga clan's hideout and even various monster encampments across the land, most of which the heroes deal with off-screen. We're then told Urbosa heads out with her divine beasts to deal with any enemies of the king, as the team then follows behind her and storms the Yiga clan's hideout. Fighting their way through the booby-trapped infested hideout that is their headquarters, they face off with Master Koga. While he's boastful about his impending success, even with his men at his back and call, the heroes come out on top, kicking him out of his own home. After the fight, we catch up to Master Koga and Suga confronting Aster. His prophecy told them that this would be to their advantage, but the duo take issue with the fact that this excluded them being slapped around like arrogant children. While Suga is ready to fill in the role of being muscle, Aster explains that this was all part of the plan before threatening that if he struck down, that would be a slight on Ganon, officially making them his enemies. They'll still require his help if Ganon's to return. Back to our heroes, the team admires how useful the towers are now, as they just squashed major enemies of the kingdom in a single afternoon. Purah is gleefully kicking her feet as she shows them one more feature that she's ready to unveil. The ability to teleport to any tower that they want from anywhere in the land with a single press of a button. There's still more that she hopes to learn, but thanks to all the recent advancements, she's able to expand her team of researchers. Zelda laments she would love to join in on Purah's research, but it's staying good on her word to the king, and heads off to train. The next day, Impa delivers terrible news to the king. From what Robbie and Purah were able to glean from Terraco's memories, Ganon will return on Zelda's 17th birthday. If they didn't have a plan fully thought out by this point, they better make one soon. The king then orders Zelda to take her knights and head east, to the Spring of Courage, in order to awaken her power. While this power is normally something that will come to her in time, the king hopes sending her there will speed up the process. Making their way there, Zelda begins to grow anxious as she feels the weight of the world resting entirely on her shoulders. Even though everything else is coming into place so far, if she can't have her moment to come to fruition, everything will go up in smoke. Impa tries easing Zelda's mind, of course, but bearing the responsibility she does, Zelda declines and continues to meditate. While she focuses, monsters approach as Impa and Link proceed to lock in for a moment. During the ambush, Zelda proceeds to offer her support and guides the three of them to safety. Afterwards, Impa tries showing Zelda some gratitude, but Zelda argues that it was really her and Link that got them out safely. It's then Impa's had enough of this, and she proceeds to scold Zelda for her inhibitions. She keeps blaming herself as the only one not pulling their weight, but that can't be any further from the truth. They would have died without her help just then. Terraco and Link are even in agreement, as at last Zelda finally sees reason. Later, she sets out to reach the Fountain of Wisdom as part of her pilgrimage. Normally, no one under 17 is allowed entry. And while Zelda did make plans to do so formally, with so much at stake, everyone just kinda made an exception. Knowing that her birthday will be when the Calamity strikes, King Rome orders his people to evacuate while they can. He then uses the Divine Beast to take out any threats to the kingdom until Zelda returns. It's then we take a detour back to Purah and Robbie, who are still studying Terraco. While doing so, they begin to realize that he contains unknown records deep within his memories of battles and faces from the timeline he left behind. While he had yet to live through those exact events himself, he retained them in data as though he had always been present. The duo figured this would be essential to defeating Ganon, and proceed to look into the future, for lack of better wording. This will be important context for what was already in the base game story, which we'll return to now. Some time passes as Robbie finishes his analysis of all Terraco's internal data. When Purah wanders over to see his findings, they're then interrupted by the Yiga clan, as everyone is then taken as hostages. Purah and Terraco exchange a quick look, as she then tosses the Sheikah slate into the air, as Terraco then snatches it and breaks free of the facility. Later that evening, Zelda, Link, and Impa exit the castle walls and set out to find the Spring of Wisdom. Waving goodbye, Terraco then scurries his way over to Zelda, handing over the Sheikah slate. As the group is still figuring out what's going on, it's then disaster strikes. Calamity Ganon is revived as he begins his takeover of Hyrule Castle. Across the land, the champions see Ganon's return as they try to make it to Zelda's side. However, the teleportation effects of the Sheikah towers have become inoperable. To make matters worse, the Guardians begin to spring to life under Ganon's control. While Link goes to protect Zelda, King Rome springs into action and destroys the Guardian, attacking her. Link then gestures to fight alongside the king, however, Rome orders him to protect Zelda above all else. Link understands his duty and takes Zelda and hurries off. As they make it out of the castle, we see Link, Zelda, Impa, and Terraco look on in disbelief as Calamity Ganon overtakes the castle. Impa looks at the Sheikah slate and gives an even more disheartening bit of news. All the Divine Beasts are now under Ganon's control. Zelda falls to her knees, blaming herself for these events. As she begins to cry, Terraco then plays Zelda's lullaby once more. As he finishes the song, a single teardrop from Zelda makes contact with his eye, as Terraco then shoots a beam of light into the sky. The trio looks to Terraco, who seems just as confused himself about what just happened. The group then sees Va Mado off in the distance, a flicker of light giving our heroes a small bit of hope. If the blue light is still on the Divine Beast, that must mean the champion is still alive. The trio then heads off, hoping to aid their champions before it's too late. To the east, they hope to ensure the safety of Daruk and Mipha, who, all things considered, are holding their ground pretty nicely, but the odds will overwhelm them if nothing is done. The heroes fight their way through the enemy ranks as Calamity Ganon is striking at the champions of both beasts. Just as it seems both champions are about to meet their end, however, their successors from the future transcend time itself through the beam of light that Terraco had shot in the air. Sidon and Yunobo are both able to fight off their respective monsters from taking their predecessors' lives long enough for Link, Impa, and Zelda to arrive on the scene. The heroes divide and conquer their way across the battlefield, rescuing Mipha and Sidon as Water Blight Ganon is finally struck down. The other hero heads off to save Daruk and Yunobo from Fire Blight Ganon. When the battle is over, the group takes a moment to breathe as Yunobo and Sidon both get a moment. Yunobo gets the praise he could have only dreamed of having from Daruk, while Sidon confirms to Mipha that the two of them came from the future. Daruk is baffled at how that could possibly be, but pays it no mind. They aren't out of the woods just yet, as Zelda quickly brings them up to speed on the state of things. Daruk and Mipha board their divine beasts once again, and Mipha and Sidon head off to Kala Citadel to aid soldiers holding out as long as they can. While Daruk and Yunobo, meanwhile, find themselves quelling the number of guardians overtaking the land. Following the Gorons, Yunobo is beyond impressed by Daruk's skills, but Daruk reminds him that formalities aren't important to him. They continue heading east, fighting off the Guardians. This is now where more of our DLC story begins to take place. While Daruk and Yunobo tried aiding the other champions, they noticed a horde of monsters beelining it for Kakariko Village. The duo quickly form a plan, as Yunobo will get on foot and help the townspeople with anything they need, while Daruk will stay on Vah Rudania and keep the monsters at bay. After the fight is over, Daruk has to stop Yunobo from admiring him so much. While Yunobo tries arguing that it's only because of Link from his timeline that brought him this far, Daruk points out that this is just as much Yunobo's moment as it is his. The two then share a much-needed laugh. We then go into another side story as we catch up with Mipha and Sidon, as the two of them return to Zora's domain to protect their home from monsters going crazy. Slaying the monsters, Mipha takes time to heal the wounds of the soldiers, thinking the battle's over, as she begins to notice they're still fighting out in the distance. The then-present child Sidon rushes out head first to fight monsters before tripping over his own feet. Before any damage can befall him, fortunately, adult Sidon then rushes through and makes quick work of the moblin that he was about to face. Mipha can't figure out why her little brother would rush headfirst into danger like that. It's then adult Sidon speaks up for his younger counterpart, claiming he only wanted to help, though it'd be better if he didn't sneak off and put himself in that kind of danger. But because of his younger self's efforts, he was able to help Mipha as a result. He then pauses a moment as he realizes his own words. He then tells his younger self before long he'll one day need to be strong enough to protect his sister. Back to the main story, our heroes set off to find Revali and Urbosa. Using their earlier tactics once more, the group heads out to aid both champions. Before the last strike can land on either of them, Teva, Riju, and her dear sand seal Patricia drop in. While the group's help has certainly delayed things, it isn't enough on their own. Luckily, it's just long enough for Zelda and her friends to make short work of Lightning and Windblight Ganon. Urbosa thanks the heroes for their aid and turns her attention to Riju as well, as she very blatantly expresses she doesn't know what would have happened had they not arrived. Revali fixates on Link, claiming they would have been just fine without him. But at least his presence helped, so it's not so bad. Teba's rather surprised by Revali's attitude, but before he can get into it, Urbosa cuts him off. She then asks Zelda the state of the kingdom, as Zelda then proceeds to bring the group up to the same page. Revali and Teba set out to aid Daruk and Yunobo dealing with the barrage of Guardians. During the battle, Revali then declares they'll soon see Vah Medoh's true power, as we then cut to black. Cutting to our hero striking across the fields, Zelda looks at Teriko thinking back on what she heard Sidon telling Mipha. He describes a voice calling out to him, but as he looked around, all he saw was his sister under attack. Urged to respond, the next thing he knows, he's on Vah Ruta. Zelda begins to realize without Teriko, the champions of tomorrow never would have come forward. The group then continues their way onto Akala Citadel. Concurrently as all of this is happening, another DLC story kicks in. And I'll say right now, from my findings, this is seemingly the first and only point in the story where I could sensibly think to put it, so bear with me a little bit. Anywho, Urbosa and Riju head back to reclaim the Royal Ancient Lab while the other champions battle the Guardians. The place has been infested with monsters since the Yiga clan chased everyone away, and the monsters who have taken up residence have since accustomed themselves to the weaponry lying around the facility. As the Gerudo's top brass work with Urbosa and Riju, they manage to liberate the lab, as Riju later tries showing Urbosa how capable she is donning Thunderhelm, an heirloom passed down through the Gerudo. It's traditionally only worn by the chief and is capable of deflecting lightning strikes upon the wearer. While she tries showing it off to Urbosa, Master Koga then pops in trying to swipe it. However, he's obviously incapable of making it deflect any lightning, as Urbosa immediately snaps her fingers as he goes flying face first. Before he leaves, Koga then declares that he'll have it yet. Upon Master Koga's return to the front lines, he finds himself having a rude awakening, as in his absence, Aster has been claiming the life essence of all of his Yiga members to fuel Calamity Ganon. Aster claims he's gonna need a change of plans as Zelda's forces keep getting stronger. He then attempts to claim the lives of Master Koga and Suga, but Suga rallies his strength as dark projections of Link and the various Blight Ganons charge at them. Suga tries asking Master Koga to run for it, but Koga can't bring himself to do so. After all, Suga's his right-hand man. The two run away as they attempt to escape their pursuers. The Yiga clan has all but been wiped out at this point. They have no more tricks they can rely on other than each other. Suga has definitely earned himself the title of Best Soldier as he works through his injuries that he sustained, also he could keep Master Koga from getting hurt. Suga begs Koga to leave him behind, but Koga isn't having it. He then cuts to a flashback of how the two met. One day, a starving child approaches the Yiga clan hideout as the lookouts then draw their blades on the small child. Before they can do anything to him, Master Koga then approaches, having just woken up from a nap. He hands the starving child a banana and takes a seat beside him as he half-jokingly tells the child he's gonna owe him for that one day. As they stand there in the valley, the pursuers catch up to them as all four of the Phantom Blight Ganons surround the two. Suga steps forward and readies himself, as he tells his master, no matter what, Koga will survive. He then rushes a binding spell to hold all four Ganons at bay as he tells his master one last time to run. Master Koga runs away sobbing as the binding spell finally gives out. The four Ganons fixate on Suga as he readies his blades. We cut to black, and I'll let Suga say the rest.
Have I paid you back now, Master Koga?
Absolute legend. Now, while that was going down, we have a brief detour with Revali and Teba. During their battle in central Hyrule, Revali notices a young Rito wander onto the battlefield, and he loses sight of the child. As Revali fills Teba in on the news, Teba insists they look into the map. Annoyed, Revali eventually gives in as they hurry off to the forest where they last saw the child. The pair realize as they find the young Rito, it's Teba's son, Tulin. Rescuing him, Teba then tells Tulin to show Revali some thanks. Tulin does just that, as Revali tries to play it cool as though he doesn't clearly enjoy the praise. Tulin then declares he's going to work extra hard to ensure that he can be just like Revali. Revali and Teba offer the child some encouragement as the three of them proceed to share a laugh. Across the land, we see Robbie stationed at Akala Citadel, fighting off waves upon waves of guardians stampeding their way onto the grounds. While the guards around him claim that defeat is certain, Robbie doesn't flinch, possibly due to having seen Terraco's memories already, and claims that their victory may turn around just yet. At that moment, a scout gives a report that a divine beast is approaching from the western front. Proving good on his theory, he just smiles with a simple, told you so. With the help of those from the future, history has now been altered. However, they can't relax just yet. Those who fled Hyrule Castle have since been held up in the Citadel. The walls are strong, but the Guardians are relentless. Link and his friends make their way over, as Mipha and Sidon use Vah Ruta to help turn the tide. The pair hype each other up as Mipha tells her she's proud of the Zora that Sidon has grown into. Sidon struggles to hold it in for a moment, but he manages to keep his composure as they set out to take the perimeter. Holding their position, Link and his friends are successful at fighting back the Guardians as the Citadel now remains in their care. As they learn Robbie and Purah, they both managed to escape the Yiga. However, whereas Robbie was reunited with our heroes, Purah sought out a place called Fort Tenno to the southeast. The bad news, of course, is that their enemies are said to have taken the fort as their own. We then see Urbosa and Riju, who find themselves tasked with quelling the herd of Guardians in central Hyrule, while Zelda and her party try to reach Purah. Riju expresses bewilderment at how they're supposed to overcome the odds, but frankly, Urbosa isn't concerned. To her, they've already passed the hard part. She'd be dead if not for Riju. As the two then set off for battle, it seems to go on forever. That is, however, before the other Divine Beasts converge on their position and help clean house. As Zelda and her group manage to reach Fort Hateno, Aster then blocks away, as he uses the relic he received from Harbinger Ganon to bring out the 4 Phantom Blight Ganons. All 4 of them proceed to attack as Impa takes Zelda to hurry into the fort, while Link holds his ground as he finds himself surrounded. Zelda begins to have flashbacks of her father as she gets out of Impa's grip and hurries to his side. In that moment, Zelda finally awakens to the light that she had been seeking this entire time, as the Phantom Blight Ganons dissipate, as well as the malice from any guardians that Ganon was controlling. After a prolonged struggle against Aster from taking the fort, we skip ahead to the next day as soldiers toil away at the upkeep of the fort. It's then Zelda addresses her soldiers, rallying them as she reminds them that while Ganon has awakened, they can't give up. They have the Divine Beast, the hero has surfaced, and the lives of all who remain keep fighting. She shows her hand as the Triforce glows to their gaze, as the soldiers are more than ready to face what's to come. Later, a lone soldier takes Zelda and Impa away from the crowd. As Zelda asks what the problem is, the soldier faces her as the disguise begins to fall apart, as he reveals himself to be Master Koga. Despite his theatrics, he then bows his head to her. All the people of the land have united under a common foe, as even Master Koga, with a handful of his clansmen, the few who remain, join Zelda's cause. Zelda then receives notice of the forces of Hyrule are still locked in a battle on the Great Plateau, as she then heads out to offer support. Luckily, Purah announces to the group that she used the terminal in Fort Hateno to not only reconnect the Sheikah Towers in central Hyrule, but was also able to reactivate all the towers remotely. She then adds, thanks to her time with Terrako, she was also able to enhance the teleportation effects of the towers. They can now go wherever they want, wherever they need in a flash, no longer restrained to the locations of the towers themselves. We're going to rewind just a little bit as we take in another side story that was also happening concurrently with the last couple of events. Over the last day or so, we see what happened to the king and his soldiers. First, Zelda escaped and subsequently headed off to save the champions from the Blight Ganons. She then rendezvoused with the soldiers stationed at Lanero Road that had previously been tasked with protecting her while she trained at the Spring of Wisdom. King Rome, meanwhile, used that time to take his remaining soldiers and rebuild his army. While they set out, the king finds himself having a difficult time with the monsters that he has to face. Just as his men have found themselves overwhelmed, Urbosa arrives on the scene with her own troops and provides support. Later, as we're catching up to the present, the king and Urbosa find themselves on the edge of the Great Plateau. The king apologizes for needing to be rescued, as Urbosa then replies, if they lost him, that would have been far more trouble. She then lets the king know that Zelda's been searching for him since they were separated and is now en route. Now that we're all caught up, the next day, Zelda hurries to the Temple of Time on the Great Plateau as she finds her father alive and well inside its walls. He tells Zelda it's because of the relic that she handed him earlier that his life was spared, as we're then shown a flashback of it activating as a shield, deflecting a beam from one of the Guardians, giving him and his soldiers just enough time to make their escape. Rome then apologizes to his daughter for his earlier actions. While accusing her of putting off her duties as princess, he was doing the same all along. The two then get to share a tender moment with one another as Zelda tells the king that he doesn't need to shoulder the burden all by himself anymore. Her father, in turn, tells her that he's got no doubt that she can seal the Calamity. He then addresses the others in the room. Everyone is to gather on Hyrule Field and push to retake the castle. Later, our heroes gather. With the help of Purah at the towers, she teleports armies all across Hyrule to converge on its central field, all 4 divine beasts alongside them. Everyone is more than pumped to put an end to things, and by Zelda's command, after a rousing speech, Hyrule stands together from all sides and heads for the castle. Fighting their way across the field, Zelda uses her powers to weaken Calamity Ganon as all 4 divine beasts then in unison blast him in the face. While everything's been going well so far, it's then the Blood Moon finally shines, as Ganon's magic strengthens and all the undead monsters return once again. Despite this, as they head through the castle town, they find themselves standing off with Aster, who has Harbinger Ganon besides him. Harbinger Ganon then transforms into the version of himself that he took on when he battled Terrako shortly after arriving in the past. The two then fight as the heroes use everything they have against him. Aster eventually falls to his knees as he can't understand how this is possible. He tries to command Ganon and becomes unfortunately aware that his usefulness is now over. Harbinger Ganon absorbs his body and takes on another monstrous form, something closer resembling the Ganon that we're more accustomed to. The malice created by this new version of the Harbinger begins to corrupt Terrako, as Link then intervenes to stop Terrako from taking Zelda's life. Terrako draws his blades, as Link reluctantly has to put down the robotic friend. Worn and battered, Terrako slumps forward. Zelda proceeds to cry as she hurries over to his side. Using the last of his energy, he proceeds to play Zelda's lullaby one more time. This begins to stir memories deep within Zelda, as we see her as a child putting the finishing touches on Terrako as he springs to life. Zelda then calls out to her mother, as we're quickly thrusted into another memory of Zelda looking on at the stars, wondering if her mom is now among them. Terrako then plays her lullaby again, as Zelda begs him not to leave her too. Once more, we see a flash cut to King Rome taking Terrako away. Calamity Ganon is said to be coming, and Zelda must dedicate her time to training. To him, Terrako is just a toy and a distraction. But knowing full well what Terrako means to her, all he can do is offer her a weak apology and heads off. Back in the present, Zelda takes a moment to mourn her little friend as she then stands to face her allies. She declares then and there, Ganon will be sealed. Fighting their way through the castle, they come face to face with the monster himself. His sheer malice is enough to tear away at the room as it begins to collapse on itself. Zelda tries aiding Link with her powers, as Terrako's limp body then stands up one final time as it begins to glow. He hurries his way to her side, as Zelda declares she will save everyone. Just then, Terrako proceeds to lunge forward into Ganon's body, sacrificing what little of himself remains, scattering into tiny, tiny pieces. Weakened, Zelda, Link, Impa, and her champions at last begin their final battle. With their combined efforts, Ganon falls to his knees as Link rushes forward. With a single swing, cutting deep into Ganon's form, Zelda uses her powers to at last seal Ganon. It's not without effort that it takes effect, but at long last, the fight is won. Citizens of Hyrule look on as the sun shines upon the land. The Blood Moon, Ganon, Aster, it's all over. Zelda faces her companions, who share a moment of peace. Later, the heroes exit through the castle walls, as it's then Zelda notices the remaining screw of Terrako she's been holding on to begins to vanish. Everyone who traveled back in time needs to head home, as their bodies glow the same blue hue. As they all declare their adventure has been a welcome one, Zelda thanks them for their efforts. The light takes over the forms of all the heroes of tomorrow, as they then shine to the sky, and it's a new day for Hyrule. While that would be the end, we aren't done just yet. The screw of Terrako never left Zelda's hand along with the other champions. Over the coming days, Zelda and her friends scour the land gathering components of a guardian unlike the others. We then have one last side story played to us as a set of flashbacks of sorts. Purah and Robbie look over Terrako's memories again and find one more that happened sometime after the castle was taken, but before Aster had betrayed the Yiga. It's given to us mostly by narration, but Terrako himself has a rematch with Harbinger Ganon. The Harbinger takes on a stronger form, as Terrako has a 1v1, knowing that he's gunning for Zelda. Coming out on top, Yiga members take the beaten Harbinger and escape, as Zelda and Link hurries to his side after the fight is won. As the memory concludes, images of Zelda and her friends begin to play as a slideshow as the two happily watch his memories play out. As Purah and Robbie have now finished looking over all their recordings, a competitive spirit ignites between the two as they get to work. Fast forward some undisclosed amount of time later, we see Terrako open his eyes one more time. Purah and Robbie try checking the finishing touches as the champions all gather around. However, it isn't until Zelda wanders into view that he truly springs back to life. Realizing that he's even retained all of his memories, Zelda begins to cry as she welcomes him home. Reunited, Terrako plays Zelda's lullaby in her arms. And that, my friends, is the story of Age of Calamity. If you're still here, thank you so much for sticking around till the end. Whether you made it in one sitting or multiple, I appreciate it a lot. More is on the way for this channel, both for this series and beyond, and if you happen to have an idea for a future episode, let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again in the next episode. Till then, everybody.